Hey, what's up, y'all? It's another episode of a Ferrell podcast. So, today, here's what we're going to go over. Got my handy dandy notebook. So, today we are going to go over some super regional matchups for the NCAA Men's College World Series. We're going to talk about how sports can change your life or help. Discuss, the current UFC BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu situation. Well, not necessarily situation. It's more of, it just got agreed to. And I'll tell you my thoughts and opinions on that. And go over this upcoming Fight Night predictions for tonight for Usman versus Buckley. Then we're gonna, talk about being a good person, some things I've thought about with that, discuss being healthy, discuss striking thoughts, which is this book that I'm reading. Amazing book. And then we'll end with, some current events, stuff that's going on. So let's get to it. All right. So for the super regional matchup, we've got 3 of the 4 super regionals have already started. So we've got Arizona, Coastal Carolina. That game's already played. Louisville, Oregon State University. They've already played. Murray State, UCLA, or University of California at Los Angeles. They've already played. That ended just recently. And then we've got LSU or Louisiana State University in Arkansas playing later tonight. Why is it pronounced Arkansas, not Arkansas? It's literally spelled A-R, Kansas. Weird. Anyways, English is hard. For the Arizona Coastal Carolina game, Coastal Carolina came out on top, and that was a really good game. I believe they won. I believe Coastal won 7-4. That was actually a really good game to watch. If you didn't, I highly recommend going on YouTube and watching the highlights. I honestly thought Arizona might, win that one just because Coastal Carolina is in the Sun Belt Conference. I'm not saying anything bad about that conference. That's a good conference. Arizona is also in the Big 12, I believe. I believe they're in the Big 12 conference now instead of the Pac 12. I don't even want to go into that. That's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different episode. I thought Arizona was going to win that one just because, they're in the Big 12. You've got teams like West Virginia. You've got teams like Oklahoma State. You've got TCU. TCU's typically a pretty decent team, or at least, they're on par typically every year. There's quite a few teams in that conference that are really good. And I didn't think they would lose, but, to each their own. Like, they lost against UNC in the first game. They got demolished in that game, might I add. But they clearly made it to the Super Regionals, so, this might just be a small setback for a major comeback. Who knows? The Louisville OSU game. Moving on to that. Oklahoma State, Lord. Oregon State. I was not surprised. I thought they would win that one. Oregon State's got a really good franchise going on with their baseball team. I don't know. I'm rooting for Louisville, but I really think Oregon State's going to come out on top out of that series. I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon State wins it all. I'll tell you my picks on who I think is going to play in the final after we get done with this segment. So I hope Louisville pulls it off, but I think Oregon State's gonna power through. Murray State and UCLA. Murray State is the Cinderella of this entire Super Regional. I was wrong when I said Wright State. I really thought Wright State was going to be the Cinderella team, but clearly Murray State has proven me wrong. Now, with that being said, I think this is where Murray State ends their Cinderella run. I don't think they will get past UCLA. Just recently, they lost 4-6, I believe, but they started coming back in the later half of the game. But I don't think they're going to make it past UCLA. I just don't. I think UCLA is just too much for them. As far as LSU and Arkansas. Ooh, that's a tough one. Honestly, I'm not going to be surprised with either team. I think LSU's probably going to pull it out, but I wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas does. They have the slogan Omahogs for a reason. Yeah, it rhymes and fits in well, but Arkansas's got a really solid ball club typically. But so does LSU. If I had to pick, I'd pick LSU. LSU's got a solid club. Now, as far as who I think is going to play in the finals, I would not be surprised if I saw either LSU and Oregon State or if I saw Coastal Carolina and Oregon State. Now, I don't think Coastal Carolina and Oregon State will meet. I think it's really going to come down to LSU and Oregon State. That's my top 2 picks, but we will see. Time will tell. However, if you had to ask me right now who is going to win the Men's College World Series, I would say Oregon State. Oregon State just has that it factor. UCLA does too, but I think Oregon State's they're just the history behind that ball club. They've got it. They're just well-rounded overall from the first position to the 9th position. If you know numbers in baseball, you know what I'm talking about. they've got it. They've got it. I'm not going to say they are them, but pretty dang near close. All right. Now on to the second part, how sports can change your life, or at least help your life. We can learn a lot of life lessons, mostly, adversity, but how sports help us through a lot of stuff in life. And you can learn a lot of stuff through sports. They have a lot of good life lessons in them. Mostly, like I said, mostly about adversity, um, but there's a lot of other things how it helps, like regulate emotion or, supporting people and being there, and that bond you create with your teammates. But really, sports can change your life in so many ways. It can, help you cope with, hard stuff that you're handling in life. It can let you know that, you're not alone. It can also, teach you that, there are people out there that are willing to help you. And it also teaches that, you know, you will create bonds that you'll create may or may not be broken. Like you'll create strong bonds with, your teammates because you practice with them every single day. You suffer with them every single day. You are in the trenches with them every single day during practice or, in, a hard game. So like you learn to rely on, your teammates. You learn leadership skills through sports. It doesn't matter what your position is, like in baseball. The catcher is probably the most vocal person on that entire team. They are the quote unquote quarterback of the team. Like in football, you have the quarterback who basically calls all the plays and, knows everybody's routes, everybody's blocking assignments, what every player on that team is doing. They are the captain of that team. They are the company commander. They are the first sergeant. They are the operations sergeant. Like they know what is going on, how it's supposed to be done. And for baseball, it's the catcher. You know what's going on. You know what, like if you got to run on first and third, okay, who is on first and third and what play is going to be called? Like, are you going to just, if run on first decides to try and steal second, are you going to just throw it halfway to the pitcher to try and, see if the person on third will go? Or are you going to actually throw it to second? Or are you going to just hold it? Like, there's a lot of variables. Sports can change your life drastically and it can, be one of the greatest things for you. Now, moving on to this third segment. So, UFC BJJ. That is huge. Now, I personally think that UFC is way behind the curve on this. They should have done this a long time ago. I mean, FC, despite all their allegations and all the stuff that they're dealing with right now, ONE FC was doing this a long time ago. They were incorporating grappling matches. I'm not going to call them fights. They were incorporating grappling matches into their cards when they had Muay Thai, when they had kickboxing, when they had MMA or mixed martial arts for those of you that don't understand what MMA is. Like they were already incorporating that. I mean, UFC is behind the curve on this. However, it's the UFC. UFC is the promotion that you want to go to prove your worth. You can be a Bellator champ, you can be a PFL champ all you want, you can be a ONE FC champ all you want. But until you have that UFC title, are you really the champ? In my opinion, yes. Because if you were fighting for, a fighting organization, whether it's Brave FC, whether it's Eagle FC, whether it's UFC, whether it's PFL, whether it's Bellator, I don't care. If you are the champion in that weight division, you're the champ. That simple. I don't care what organization it is. You're a professional fighter. Doesn't matter the organization. Are there levels to this? Yes, there will be levels to it. But that's just like with everything. There's levels to everything. Nonetheless, I am really happy to see that UFC is finally incorporating Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu into this now. And I think they're even going to have like a tough style setup, which I think is really innovative and really cool. That they are ahead of the curve. As you can see, my daughter heard me talking about this and she just ran behind me. Now she's there and she was super excited. And now she's out. All right. So I think UFC is ahead of the curve with having this tough style setup and regards to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu matches, but ultimately they're behind the curve. This should have been done long ago. They could have promoted this a long, long time ago to help Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out. But I also think this is really more geared towards sport Jiu-Jitsu than the BJJ that you would think of that you do when you go to, your gym or, wherever you go train BJJ or striking or grappling at. Nonetheless, I think it's a super cool thing. And I am so excited to see it take off. I am so excited to see how far this will go. And I am excited to see who the first winner of this tough style BJJ stuff is going to be. I'm excited to see this because we are watching history in the making happen before our eyes. And God, that is so awesome. Now, as far as the UFC Fight Night for Usman Buckley tonight in Atlanta, I'm going to start off with the prelims and go fight by fight. So, in the first prelim, you've got Jamie Lynn Horth versus Vanessa Demopoulos. I've got Demopoulos winning by, I don't know. I've just got her winning. In the next prelim, you've got Phil Rowe versus Angelusa. I've got Phil Rowe going. I've got Phil Rowe winning. He's gonna go the distance, all 3 rounds. Next fight, you've got Ricky Simon versus Cameron Smotherman. I got Ricky Simon. I think it'll be a close fight though, but I think Ricky Simon will pull it out. Next one is Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa. I'll say Durden. And then you've got Malcolm Willmaker versus Chris Montino. If I'm not mistaken, I think Montino's the one who fought Sean O'Malley. He had the really light lime green hair, and man, did he take a beating, but man, he showed some heart. Man. Talk about a chin on that kid. We're going Latino. Then you've got Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. We're going with the Maverick. And then the last prelim is Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Belat. Paul Craig by submission. Let's go. All right, starting off the main card, you've got Alonzo Menifield versus Umar Sy. Menifield. And as you can see, my daughter came in here again as I was talking about the UFC, and she was excited. Now she's leaving. All right. So from what I understand, she picked the next fight, which is Mansour Abdul Malik versus Cody Brundage, and my daughter said Cody Brundage is winning. All right, we're going to go with that. Now, for the next one, we got Cody Garbrandt versus Renoy Barcelos. I probably pronounced his name wrong. I apologize. I want to go with Garbrandt, but I don't know. You know what? We're going to go with no love. He's the underdog in this fight. We're going no love. Let's do it. All right. Next fight in the middleweight division is Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Petrosky. Shabazian. All right. Next fight is Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. Namajunas. And then Usman versus Buckley. Oh, Jesus. My heart says Usman just because of experience and how seasoned he is. That man's been in some wars. My daughter's back again. She got excited about the Usman Buckley fight. Okay. She told me she's unsure. But my mind is telling me Buckley because of his youth and, his explosiveness. I'm going to go with Usman. I think Usman's going to bring him to the ground, and I think Usman's going to really show him what it's like being on the ground. And I think Buckley's going to try and get up, and he might get up a couple times, but I think Usman's going to ultimately wear him down, taking him to the ground. And of course, those famous foot stomps. All right, to the next section. All right, we're talking about being a good person. Now, I'm bringing this up because I was mowing my neighbor's yard the other day. And it was just a thought that popped in my head. I won't even say it's my neighbor's yard, because we don't have any neighbors. They moved out. And nobody's, moved in. But, their grass was being overgrown and their property line is right on mine. And they don't even have that much of a yard right next to our yard. And I was just like, let me just mow it because it's not that much and it's not that big of a deal. And, it just got me thinking, like, why don't people just do this naturally? I really still haven't found an answer to that other than, they don't want to, or, it's not their problem, so they're not going to deal with it. But it's like, it's not a problem to begin with. It's just doing that out of the good nature of your heart. So why not do it? Like, if it's not that much, who cares? And even if it is, who cares? Like, you're just doing it to help, and the company who's trying to rent or sell that house or whatever. And like, even then, like, why do you care? It's like, oh, I'm helping them out, so I need something out of it. Why do you need to have something in return? That's just being selfish. Why not just do it out of the goodness of your heart? But I think that's a lost thing nowadays. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that would do that just to have that. I'm not trying to, gloat or, say I'm better than my neighbors and better than anybody else. I'm not. I'm last. If anything, I'm nowhere near as good as I think I am. And I still just don't understand how it is hard for some people to be a good person in the sense of just doing the right thing. Like, why does it have to be made more complicated than it needs to be? Why are you so upset about doing the right thing? Just do the damn right thing. Like, it's not that fucking hard. Be a good person. Do the right thing. And that's it. It's not that fucking hard to do. But yet people want to make the biggest deal out of nothing. Now, with that being said, why should you get frustrated because somebody else isn't being a good person? You shouldn't. And the reason I say that is because why should somebody else's actions dictate what your responses. Now, obviously, there are circumstances to all of this. Like if somebody is throwing something at me and threatening me, then it's like, okay, like I've told you to stop. If you haven't stopped, all right, CV Paca Parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. Like, that simple. I'm not going to let you threaten me or threaten my being or threaten my family. But it's just as simple as like mowing the yard. Like nobody mowed the yard. Okay, who cares? Like go do it. So like there's different situations, but you shouldn't allow your frustrations to show and determine your actions. You should be in control of that. And it's a lot easier said than done, but you've got to practice to get good at it, right? So why don't you start practicing now? I highly recommend, if you have not yet, go read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Go read a copy of that. You will change your perspective. It's a really good book. All right. Moving on, we're going to talk about being healthy. And not in the sense of what is good for you, what is bad for you. In the sense of you owe it to yourself to be healthy. You owe it to all the unhealthy people out there and all the unhealthy people in your family. And I'm not saying unhealthy due to, like cancer or due to, some issue you've got that's genetic. I'm not talking about that. I mean, yes, you can do that and be healthy for them because they can't be. But you still owe it to yourself and all the people who are, deciding to be obese and act like they know what's right and acting like they're okay when they're not. You owe it to your generational trauma and to stop that cycle to be healthy, whether it's mentally or physically. You owe it to yourself and to everything around you to be healthy. There is no argument. If you are not going to do it, who is? You want to stop your generational trauma? Well, be that change. You want to give excuses on why you can't? Well, then I guess you're not going to be that change because you're also the problem there. Yeah, doesn't feel good to hear it, does it? But you are the problem if you are not creating that change. It's that simple. Create that change. Be healthy. You owe it to yourself and to all of your family that isn't. There are going to be hard times. Your family's going to doubt you. Your family's going to talk trash about you. But who cares? Because the people who do care aren't going to sit there and talk trash about you behind your back or talk trash to you. They're going to sit there and support you because you don't talk shit behind somebody's back or talk shit to their face because you're better than them. No, you do it because you don't want to see them succeed and be better than you. And if somebody's talking shit about you or talking shit behind your back, okay, cool. Let it fly on by. It is what it is. They clearly don't want to see you get better, but you clearly want to see yourself get better. That's all that matters. And like I said, anyone who wants to see you get better or be a better version of yourself, they're going to tell you what you need to hear, and they ain't going to talk shit. And they're going to help you. They will support you. That simple. On to Striking Thoughts, the Bruce Lee book. It is. Let me open it up here. All right. So, the book that I have read, this book here, it was edited by John Little, and it is published by Tuttle Publishing. Tuttle? I don't know how to pronounce it, but nonetheless, it's a really good book. I highly recommend it. I'm going to go over 2 highlights that I highlighted from earlier today. So, the first one is A Practical Dreamer. This is on page 73 under the Dreams section. Be a practical dreamer backed by action. You have a vision that you want to, implement, whether it's, a PR in the gym, whether it's being a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or karate or judo, or, you want to be the best athlete that you can be. Take action. Quit talking about it and just do it. Your actions speak louder than your words. That's an old quote, but that applies here. So take action and quit talking. Do what you need to do and get it done. So the second highlight is I am not easily discouraged. Readily visualize myself as overcoming obstacles, winning out over setbacks. So to me, that says you're not going to let adversity triumph over you. What you're going to do is you are going to triumph over adversity, and nothing is going to stop you from reaching your dreams. Yes, you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have days where you want to question yourself. There's going to be long nights, early mornings. You're going to not be well rested. It's part of the journey. It's part of it. It's part of the process. It is all a test to see how much you really want to get done and how much you want to do. You got to be, I'm not even going to say motivated. Motivation is shit. Motivation is short term. You need that dedication, that long term factor. Dedication is long term. You want to be highly motivated? Cool, great. That's short term. But are you dedicated? Are you willing to do what it takes to achieve your goals? Are you willing to suffer those long nights and early mornings and, only getting a couple hours of sleep? for weeks on end to reach your goal. Are you really about that life, or do you just say you are? Take action on your dreams. All right. Now, to end this, I'm going to talk about some current events going on in the world. Most recent ones are, the stuff going on in California and all that. And here's my take on that. This is just a thought and opinion. Everyone has their right to their thought and opinion. And I'm just going to keep it simple. If you're going to protest, do it peacefully. Once you get violent, that's when things start to change. That's when things, National Guard going out, troops getting sent out there. And you can protest all you want about it and say, oh, they need to be gone. But if it's still violent, they're not leaving. That simple. You want it to stop? Go peaceful. You can peacefully protest all you want. Doesn't matter. Once you start threatening, people's lives, once you start throwing stuff at them, things change. It's that simple. I'm not worried about all the other factors. I'm not worried about this and that. I'm just keeping it plain and simple. You want to keep the violent stuff going on? All right, cool. They're going to stay there. You don't want them there? Peacefully protest. Show them you want change. Quit talking about it. Show them you want change by going back to peacefully protesting. That simple. It's not that hard. You are in control of your actions. No one else is. All right. So, with all that being said, there's a lot of negativity in this world. Don't add to it. Be positive, be good, and just do the best you can. Because you owe it to yourself to do your best. You owe it to yourself to be healthy. You owe it to yourself to do the right thing. So do what's right.